Okay, so living in the now, Zen style, sounds kind of tricky, right? I mean, we're all about achieving, being better, always going for something. But what if, just maybe, the key to the good life, the fulfilling life, is already right here,
Yeah, yeah.
like hidden in plain sight right now? That's what we're going to explore today, using this awesome book as our guide, The Way of Zen by Alan Watts.
Alan Watts, man, he was a master at taking these old Eastern ideas and making them make sense to us, us Westerners. And honestly, even if you're like Zen, not my thing, there's so much gold in here if you just want to ditch the stress and just be, think of this deep dive as a toolkit for finding some peace in this crazy world we're in.
I love that, a toolkit. So, okay, first thing that hit me, Watts starts the book with this poem, almost like a warning sign. It's all about how we're constantly picking and choosing. Like, even when things are good, we want them different.
Yeah, it's really highlighting how that desire for better, for more, actually ends up making us less satisfied.
Mhm.
We fix one problem, bam, another one pops up. It's like we're hooked on fixing things, but the real fix is way deeper, like a whole perspective shift.
That's huge. And then he hits us with this line: the conflict between right and wrong is the sickness of the mind.
Oh,
Right.
right. And it's not saying morality is out the window. It's about how much mental energy we waste labeling everything good or bad. We're stuck judging, comparing, instead of just experiencing what we're never really present.
It's like that quote, comparison is the thief of joy, right?
Mhm.
Watts has this great analogy, comparing it to tossing and turning in a bed that's just too hard.
Oh, yeah, I love that one. You flip over, get a little relief, but the discomfort always comes back.
Because the problem's the BED, not which way you're lying on it.
Exactly. Zen saying, question your basic assumptions, not just the surface stuff.
Hmm.
So instead of constantly trying to change things, maybe the answer is changing how we relate to what's already there.
Okay, but how do we even start doing that? It's like wanting things to be better is built into us, right?
That's where Zen gets really wild. It brings up this idea of the moon and the water. So picture a perfectly still pond reflecting the moon perfectly.
Okay, I'm picturing it peaceful.
That's how our minds could be, taking in the world without effort.
Hmm.
But what did WE do? We try to control the reflection, make ripples, mess it up.
Oh man, I get that. When I'm stressing about a deadline, my mind just spins out, makes it way worse.
That's the wobble. That's what Zen calls it. It's us fighting reality instead of working with it. Imagine just letting go of that struggle, seeing things clearly.
It sounds amazing. But how do you actually quiet that mental chatter?
One way is through this idea called wu wei. People get it wrong, think it means doing nothing. It's way more subtle than that.
I was reading about that. It's more like effortless action, right? Like when you're in the zone, play
Yeah.
music or sports.
You got it. Think about those times when you're fully in an activity, no overthinking, just pure flow. Wu wei is about bringing that to everything we do.
Okay, that makes more sense. But how do we cultivate that? Life usually feels pretty effortful.
Zen masters, they had these unconventional ways of shaking people out of their usual thought patterns. You familiar with koans?
Like what's the sound of one hand clapping? That kind of thing.
Exactly. It's not about the right answer. It's about showing you the limits of how you usually think.
Like glitching the matrix, breaking you free.
It's a mental jab to get you into a state of not knowing. That's where real insight can happen.
Mind blown. So koans are like boot camp for your awareness.
Not for the faint of heart, but they show something vital. Zen is about direct experience, not just thinking you understand it. It's about waking up to right now, beyond all the labels and judgments.
Okay, that's clicking for me.
Hmm.
It's not about becoming a Zen master. It's about learning to see and be in the world differently.
And that change isn't just inside us, it goes outward too, affects how we interact with everything.
You know, Watts talks a lot about how Zen influenced art, especially things like Japanese gardens and haiku poetry. Are those good examples of that?
Absolutely. They're like pure expressions of Zen in action. They teach us to see beauty in simple things, to appreciate how everything's temporary, and find that sense of wonder in everyday stuff.
Okay, let's get into that. I'm curious how those art forms can help us bring more Zen into our lives, even if we're not, artists ourselves.
So Japanese gardens, right. Ever noticed how different they are from like typical Western gardens?
Yeah, totally. It's not all about perfect lawns and tons of flowers. They're way more like peaceful, in tune with nature somehow.
That's it. It's Zen in action. Instead of trying to control nature, they work with it, highlighting the beauty that's already there.
Like the gardener is almost collaborating with, I don't know, the wind, the water, even the rocks. To make something that feels intentional but also kind of effortless.
Exactly, like that wu-wei we talked about. The gardener's ego is out of the way, letting nature lead.
That's probably why they feel so serene, almost meditative.
For sure, every detail, from where the rocks are to how the water flows, it's all about that balance, that harmony.
It's like super detailed too, right? The moss on the rocks, that trickling water sound, even the light and shadows. Each tiny thing is part of the experience.
It's a reminder to slow down, be present, to actually appreciate all the subtle beauty we miss when we're rushing around.
So it's not just about making something pretty to look at. It's about cultivating a state of mind.
That's it. And we see the same thing in haiku poetry, another awesome expression of Zen aesthetics.
Man, I love haiku. They're so elegant, you know? Like, how do they pack so much feeling into so few words?
That's the beauty. It's stripped down, no extra fluff, forces you to focus on the essence of the moment, what they call suchness. Season idea means like the inherent nature of things without us projecting our opinions onto it.
So seeing things fresh, almost like a kid seeing something for the first time.
Exactly. There's this classic haiku by Basho, one of the masters. An ancient pond. A frog jumps into the pond splash. Silence again.
Even reading that, I feel calmer, like I'm right there by the pond.
Right. And the poem doesn't try to explain anything, just presents it, invites you to experience it directly.
And that splash breaking the silence.
Yeah.
It's like a burst of awareness, pure perception.
Zen in a nutshell. Cultivating that clear awareness in every moment.
Okay, getting it. Both gardens and haiku, they're like training grounds for our attention.
Yes.
Teaching us to be present, find beauty in simplicity, appreciate how fleeting everything is.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is they don't just reflect Zen ideas, they help you develop those ideas in yourself, like a feedback loop.
So it's not passive. It's about using art to actually transform yourself.
That's where the real power is. Zen's not just a philosophy to think about, it's a whole way of life. Affects everything.
It's making me think, like even doing the dishes, which I usually hate.
Yeah.
What if I approached it with that Zen mind? Focusing on the water, the sounds, the simple act of cleaning.
That's it, bringing that mindful awareness to anything, no matter how small or boring it seems.
So it's not about instantly becoming a Zen master. It's more gradual, right? Like changing how you see and act in the world moment by moment.
You got it. And speaking of becoming a Zen master, Zen actually kind of challenges that whole idea of a fixed self that has to achieve something.
Wait, you mean like there's no me? My whole sense of self is an illusion.
Not quite an illusion, but the way we usually think of self is limited, kind of helpful even. Think about it. Our self is mostly memories, roles we play, ideas about who we are, mental stuff, not the actual living reality of this moment.
So I'm clinging to a mental snapshot instead of this ever-changing experience.
Yeah. And that clinging to a fixed me is what causes so much suffering, all the anxiety, the comparing ourselves, needing approval.
Because we're trying to live up to this image we made, who we should be.
Which is always outdated, never complete. It can't capture how complex we really are.
So how do we let go of that fixed self? Feels so basic to who I am.
That's where things like meditation and mindfulness come in. They train you to relate to your thoughts and experiences differently.
So it's not about like emptying your mind, reaching some super blissful state.
Nope. It's about noticing your thoughts and feelings as they happen without getting carried away. Just observing your mind, no judgment.
And then you realize thoughts are just thoughts, not
Yeah.
necessarily the truth or who you are.
And that's freedom right there. When you're not so merged with your thoughts, you can choose how to react.
Instead of being controlled by emotions, you can like navigate them better.
You become the captain of the ship. And Watts talks about how even language reinforces that separateness.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
He's saying how we talk sets things up as opposites, subject, object, me versus you, makes it hard to see how everything's connected, which is huge E in Zen.
So it's not just thoughts, but words that keep us feeling separate.
Trapped in a language cage, kinda. Zen's about breaking out of that, experiencing reality more directly.
Now, Watts also talks about T, which means like virtue or power, but it's not the usual kind, right?
Right, not about following rules or being a good person.
Because that's just more striving, more solidifying the ego.
Exactly. Techie is more about fulfilling your potential, being naturally wise and compassionate.
Tapping into some inner wisdom and energy that's already there.
It's the power that just flows when you're aligned with who you truly are. No forcing, no controlling.
So it's power from letting go, surrendering to how things are.
Wu-wei in action, letting things unfold.
And Watts is clear. It's not something you get by trying harder, by willpower.
It's always there, just waiting to be uncovered, like the sun behind the clouds, let the clouds clear and boom.
Okay, but if we're already whole complete, why all the suffering? Why do we feel so lost?
The big human paradox, right? We are what we're seeking, but we spend our lives chasing it.
Like looking for your glasses while they're on your head?
Zen's like, stop searching, look inward, recognize the truth that's already you.
It's remembering, not achieving, remembering our wholeness, how we're all connected.
Then that remembering, that's liberation. You're free from all that
Wow.
striving, and you can find peace right now, just as you are.
So, Zen in everyday life, I'm all about practical tips. Where do we actually start?
You know those Zen art forms we talked about, like the gardens, the haiku? They're not just pretty, they're like instructions for living mindfully.
Right, they kind of embody that whole presence, simplicity, harmony with nature thing.
Exactly. And one of the best ways to bring that into your life is mindfulness practice. Super accessible, super powerful.
Mindfulness, okay. Everyone's saying it, but what's it actually mean, Zen style?
It's basically paying attention to right now without judging. Noticing your thoughts, feelings, all that, but not getting swept away by them.
So not emptying your mind, more like becoming aware of what's going on in there.
You got it. And the more you do it, the more you realize thoughts are just thoughts. They're not always true or who you are.
Which is kind of freeing, right? Because we believe all that stuff our minds throw at us.
Big time. Mindfulness gives you space from your thoughts so you can choose how to respond instead of being on autopilot.
Okay, but how do you do mindfulness? Is it all meditation cushions and stuff?
Yeah. Meditation's great, but honestly, any moment, any activity can be mindful. Walking, eating, heck, even washing dishes.
Wait, mindful dishwashing, how's that work?
It's easy. Instead of zoning out or stressing about stuff, you just focus on the experience. The warm water, the soap, the clinking sounds.
So you're totally there, with all the sensations, not judging anything.
You got it. Turns a chore into practice.
Sneaky. So it's about finding those mindful moments all through the day.
And over time, those moments kind of spread out, change how you approach everything.
It becomes less of an effort, more of a way of being.
Right on. So, mindfulness, check. What else helps us live Zen?
Well, we talk about letting go of striving, that wu-wei, the effortless action.
Crucial. Right. Trusting your mind and body's natural smarts, not forcing things.
And one way to get that is doing stuff that gets you into flow, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Music, dancing, creating, anything where you lose track of time, totally absorbed. That's woo-wee happening.
So it's not just fun, it's training.
Exactly. And that's what I love about Zen. It's not about adding more stuff to your life. It's about changing how you see things, how you relate to yourself and the world.
So wrapping up our Zen deep dive, what's the one thing you'd tell our listeners?
Don't overthink it. Zen's about experience, not just concepts. Start small. A little bit of mindfulness each day. Find those flow activities. And be kind to yourself through it all.
I love it. You know, even just talking about this has shifted things for me. I'm feeling like, slow down, enjoy the little stuff, maybe even try that dishwashing thing.
That's awesome. Remember, it's not about becoming some perfect Zen master. It's those little steps, moment by moment, becoming more aware, trusting the wisdom you already have.
Beautiful. And for everyone listening, remember that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. So take a breath, be here now, and keep on diving deep.
Follow the infinite within with Cecilia to explore profound insights on pantheism. Embrace the oneness of existence and unlock the mysteries within you.